All right. All right, YouTube Repo Man 64. You guys ready to go? We are seeing this just like the Bible promised. It's never failed yet. It's never been wrong. The Bible said we will see all of these things that are going on, and they are. If you would have asked us 2 years ago if we would have seen any of the things we've been seeing, no, we wouldn't have thought as much. And even we thought perhaps we'd have a little sign, something small, but all of this, there was, before I got on here, I sent text out to Brett over at God's Land Down Under. Wackadoodle Samoan called me up. He's like, Mike, what are you doing? And I was like, I fell asleep, fell asleep. I took a nap. I woke up really early in the morning to check everything out, and then I fell back to sleep. He's like, the world's coming unglued while you're sleeping. So Israel's making its move here very shortly. And I told him, I says, earthquakes have been 45 in the last 45 minutes. We've had 6 or 8 of them off the coast of Costa Rica. So it's only a matter of time before we see that big earthquake in California, which is coming here very shortly. And then you've got just you just got everything that's going on all at the same time. And we can't deny that this is happening here very soon. Exactly when, I don't know. Of course, I don't think the moon plays any role as far as the first of the month or the middle of a month or any of that. But to to say that, this is kind of what I mean by saying that. God said he hates their feast days and their celebrations. He hates them. And the reason he hates them is because they're celebrated on the wrong day. We all know that. Kevin and I did a little bit of research on when did they start using this sliver moon. Now, they weren't using it before King Antiochus forced it on the Jews in 400 BC. And then comes along Caesar. Julius Caesar comes along and makes a calendar because he knows that that calendar is completely messed up in 172 BC. And so he builds the Julian calendar. The problem is that he chooses the wrong star to center to. And so time changes. And they recognize this problem by 1582. And the Gregorian calendar, repaired it. Nothing's changed. January 1st is still January 1st, just like the Julian calendar is. Christmas always fell on December 25th on the Julian calendar, all of this stuff. So when Jesus was here, he was on the Julian calendar. And when Jesus was there, the Julian calendar had not gone wrong yet. This Gregorian calendar is nothing more than a patch, a fix to the Julian calendar. That's all it is. It moved by 10 days because they were 10 days out of sync. So when people say on the Julian calendar, this date makes sense. Okay, but it really can't because it's not keeping time properly. The Gregorian calendar is even wrong by 26 seconds per day. So over time, over the course, I think it's over the course of 2,000 years, they have to add or take away a day. So even the Gregorian calendar is not completely accurate. There's only one calendar that's completely accurate, and that is when you look at the day of equal parts, and that happens on March 16th, and once again on the night of September the 25th, becoming the 26th. Um, when you start from that point, you can build a calendar, you can build a timeline. And so when you do that, you try to match it up to the Gregorian, the patch fix to the Julian. But you also can't because they're stuck with a problem. When you center the Earth on a point and you look way out to a star and you say, well, the Earth spins to that star 364 times. Problem is that as the Earth goes around the sun, you have to recenter high noon to the sun. So, all that being said, Does it really matter? And I say it does in a fashion to where we know when the correct days are, but it doesn't because God is going to bring, he hates their feast days. And he says, look to Israel, they're your timepiece. So when the Jews say, well, here we come up on October the 16th, I think it is. Is it the 15th or 16th, where they say it is Tabernacles? Really cool thing happens. It actually lines up with the um, Essene calendar, the Enoch timeline. The huge mistake I've seen over the years of anybody that's looking at the Essene Enoch calendar, when they read the text says, on the day that is equalized, that's the day you will begin your year. And they assumed, and that's where the interpretation goes wrong. That's where people misunderstand what's going on. So on that day, the day equalized, they assume it's the day the sun crosses over the equator. It simply isn't. It is the day where, and he says it, the day where the day and the night are equalized. And that happens on March 16th. So a little bit of a lesson there, but like I said, the Jews are going to view their holidays based on that sliver moon. Now, we did a little bit of investigation, Kevin and I, and it turns out, I think he said it was it 20 years after Jesus left this earth, where they began to reintroduce the sliver moon on top of the Julian calendar, which, of course, like I said, was accurate at the time Jesus was here. So when he did something on a specific day on the Julian calendar, it literally matches what we see today on the Gregorian calendar, the patch fix. So they began to re-implement that moon. That was the biggest. Boy, Satan did a number. He really did. He did a number just like he brings you 99% truth, but then he sews in his little lie in there to throw you off key for forever. Just like he did with Adam and Eve in the garden. He said, did he really say that? Did he really say you were going to die? Well, in fact, Adam and Eve, though lived almost 1,000 years, they did die. So no, God didn't lie. It just wasn't instantaneous, and that's where Satan got in with his little of discord. So same thing happened with the moon. Satan got in there, and King Antiochus, they worshiped the moon. They were moon worshipers. They sewed that in, and then here comes Julius Caesar, and he gets rid of it. He's like, no, 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 we're going to build a calendar. I don't know anything about that calendar. I don't care about the Hebrew calendar. We're just going to call January 1st, and we're going to go on from there. And we're going to count. We're going to use the star as our center point, and then we're going to do the extra 4 minutes to the sun facing, and we'll have 365 and a quarter days, which is accurate. That's accurate. So then he does this in 172 BC. Jesus is here on that calendar, on the correct Julian calendar, which, by the way, is 75 days off from the Essene calendar. And then after Jesus leaves, they begin to reintroduce that moon, and they do all these bizarre calculations, and it's just this, and it's all over the place. And if you go look at what Satan did, he caused them to to misinterpret something that they saw in the Bible. Like, again, like I said before, the word Chodesh simply means month. New month means the new month of the year. The year starts in September. The year starts in March because in Exodus 12, that's when we start the year. However, God created the planet in September, what we call September. So the Jubilees and the Shemitah cycles do all continue to count and always have from September. Now, when the Bible says in the new moon, people are like, oh, well, the rapture has to happen on the Feast of Trumpets. You've limited yourself to one day that month. But when you realize that it says new month, then you realize that that month has to end. And I showed you that a little bit in the last video, and I did a little bit more studying on that. So I'm going to go through these pictures. Still passing this kidney stone. It's been months. Well, I tell you what, I can hardly wait to go home. I am so tired of being in pain with this goofy thing. All right, let's share the screen. Get up here. Get rid of that. Okay. Get rid of that. Hold on a second. I know you guys can't see it, but I can. It's in my way. There it goes. All right. Let me move myself up here. And I don't think I need this screen. I'll minimize it. I don't know. All right. Here we go. So when we read the passage where it says, when is the new moon going to be gone? The Sabbath going to be gone so that we can start ripping people off and changing the scales and making a ton of money off of a little bit of food. When is that going to happen? This is not new moon. This day happens. This is the new month. It occurs on September 15th. Now, the reason we cannot know, and this is, I think this is why God said this, we cannot know the day and the hour. Doesn't mean that we can't get close and figure it out within a day or two. It's because the Gregorian calendar or the Julian calendar does not match the Essene calendar. The Essene calendar with the Gregorian calendar, I had to lose one day. So you see me add a day in right here on September. That's the best day that I could choose to make things before it line up and the things after it line up. However, the day I chose could be wrong. Ecro Symphony did a huge study, and she says that day is actually right here. She said, this is the day where there should be 2 days, where Noah exits the ark on Heshvan 27, November 10th, 11th. But I don't know. I really don't know where it goes. So in that, we have a 24-hour period, a 24-hour gap that we cannot nail down perfectly. Where are we at right now? This is the 12th. We are right here. Remember, no events that I can find happen on Friday or Tuesday. Friday or Tuesday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, God created time. Thursday, the first day of time is the Feast of Trumpets. The sixth day, God creates all the animals and mankind in that afternoon. And then on the seventh day, God rested. So what we have here right now is October the 12th. Tomorrow, Tishri 28 will be October the 13th. I surmised that based on that passage of them asking, the wicked are asking, finally, when is the last day of the new moon, meaning the last day of the new month? This entire month, right here, from here to here, is a new month. This is the month of trumpets. This is the month where the Jubilee and Shemitah cycles begin. This is considered the new month. It ends right here, but then it goes on to say, and the Sabbath. Here's the Sabbath. So if we were ever actually able to line this up, we would know, we could pinpoint a little bit closer. But after the Sabbath, so it's sunset on October the 15th. And again, because of this could actually be October the 14th. So as we watch the earthquakes go off and Israel about to do what they're about to do and all the other troubles going on in the world and all of the things we're seeing in space and this comet that's coming around here very shortly, as we watch all of these things, and it's not just one thing, it's a bunch of things. You would literally have to, the secular world is viewing these things going, something's going on. Something's definitely going on. They can't quite figure it out. They don't have faith, but they know something's happened. And so this could, because of this right here, this could be October the 14th at nightfall. This could be accurate. So it could be October the 15th at nightfall. It's the 200. Now the days of the year don't change. The Hebrew calendar doesn't change. There are these dates, the Hebrew dates, there are 364 of them. There is not 365. The Hebrew dates are all on here. So this could be 14th at nightfall, 15th at nightfall, or 16th at nightfall, depending on how we understand that verse. This is the Sabbath. This is the day God rested. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is exactly 28 days after God rested. Also, as we continue, now, what's going to happen? It happens every single year. I point it out, and it's almost like people just got to hang on to that moon for some reason. And again, that's okay because that moon is actually lining up with these dates that are happening right now. They are seeing the Day of Atonement happening right here on this Sabbath. So it lines up perfectly. They will see on the 24th, right here, tabernacles begin. And that's the day that Noah goes and sits in the ark. He sits in there for 7 days, meaning 8 days inclusive, 7 days. He goes and sits in the ark. And the flood begins on Heshvan 17, which is November the 1st. Again, this day off problem I have, October the 31st at nightfall, becoming November the 1st. So all these other people building all these other calendars and timelines will forsake their calendar and timelines and come to they will make videos and they will say that the flood, in fact, happened on October the 31st. There, in almost every culture, and I dare say all cultures around the face of the earth, recognize a day for the dead, the October the 31st, even though Satan tried to hijack it with something called uh, Halloween, or what does he call it? All Hallows Eve. So he has a name for October the 31st. He tried to hijack it, but this is God's day of judgment. If you're celebrating Halloween, keep in mind this is the day God destroyed all the wicked from off the face of the earth, saving 8 souls on this day right here. All these other timelines, they will throw them away for this one event because everybody knows in every Latin culture calls it Dia de los Muertes. Dia de los Muertes on November the 1st. Every culture, Chinese, if you go and research, do a little research, you'll see that the Chinese have a day also, November the 1st. That's for the dead. So we have the same issue down here for Christmas, where Satan tried to hijack the day, and everybody's like, if you put up a tree and celebrate Christmas, look, we were here first. They came up with all of these, Satan came up with all of these bizarre holidays afterwards. Jesus had this day. This is the day he was conceived. This is the day we celebrate the day he was conceived. Well, this is the day when we put up trees that we recognize that Jesus went to the cross and died for our sins. So don't get hung up on the details. I do have conversations on Facebook quite often about why do you care what anybody does. Salvation is of the Lord, lest any man shall boast. Nobody comes to the Father, lest the Father draw him. Celebrating a holiday under the right conditions with the right heart does not do anybody any harm. You can't lose your salvation if you do. So, but there will always be that argument. It drives me uh, insane. I don't understand it. Now, remember, the book of Acts talks about 4 Pentecost events. I didn't think we were going to make it past this Pentecost here of September the 11th, the day God began creation, the day that the planes were flowing into the World Trade Center. I didn't think we were going to make it past that. But yet here we are. We're coming up on the day of the flood, the night the flood began. It is the 4th Pentecost. You will see in the book of Acts the 4th Pentecostal event where this time the Jews and the Gentiles are together. So my next 2 high watch days will be, well, it'll be the 14th, 15th, 16th, and then it'll skip 2 weeks. We'll kind of have 2 weeks. This is a high watch day too, though, the day Noah went into the ark on Heshvan 10, October the 25th. And then, of course, a Pentecost, when all those souls were saved, and it being October the 31st, coming into Heshvan 1. So try to stay away from a works-based gospel. If you do this, God's going to be mad at you. You're covered by the blood of Christ. God can't get mad at you. Kevin made a comment, and I kind of liked it. I don't know how to articulate it except to say it. And I think he's right. I think if you say, when I get to heaven, I will be happy opening doors, shining shoes, and living in a tent as long as I'm in heaven. And Kevin says that's a slap in the face to God. He covered you. He came, God Almighty Himself came here and covered you. You are that important. If you were the only one on the face of the earth that accepted Him, He would have still done it. And He came here for you. You don't deserve a tent in heaven, but by the blood that covers you, by the fact that He paid for your sins, now you can claim the largest mansion, the the biggest banquet, the most crowns, not claiming it because you're any good. You're claiming it because Jesus is that good. Remember that. Uh, it's almost like Kevin says, a slap in the face to God when you make those statements because Jesus is deserving of so much more. And He didn't come here, He came here to save a group of people for Himself. Take that, claim that, and know that once you're covered, Jesus is not going to sleep in a tent in heaven, shining shoes and opening doors. Take that and claim that. You are a child of God. You're covered by the blood of Christ. You are paramountly, created a new word. I'll write that down for the dictionary. You are paramountly important to God. And in that, act like it. Go tell somebody that this event's about to take place. Who cares if they listen to you or not? I tell everybody. I literally tell everybody. People are just with their mouths open staring at me, but they know I planted that seed. Are they going in this rapture? Probably not. They probably didn't run home and kneel down and say, I heard something today, God, but maybe they did. I don't know. It's not my place to know that. That's between God and them. All I did was plant a seed. That's what the beauty of this is God allows us to share in His salvational plan. It's a beautiful thing. All right, let me get on here with the pictures. I keep seeing this 644 people, and I'm seeing 1111 as well, but John 644 hangs on the wall behind me. Nobody comes to the Father lest the Father draw him. And that is probably when I saw that verse in my Bible, in my King James Bible that I read, that I don't take it out very often because it's an antique. It's about 40 years old. And as I open my Bible, of course, I've lost it, which is not a good sign. Where's my Bible? Hold on a second. Ah, as I'm nervous about bringing it out and opening it because this is the Bible that God saved me with, and I've done, whoops, done so much. Where's the, oh, you guys can't see it. That's great. Maybe if I get off of there. Why doesn't it like picking up paper? It's weird. Anyway, I've intensely studied. Why does it do that? Oh, there it goes. I've intensely studied in this Bible, and I've glued it together. There's, let me see there. There's glue on the end, and everything's falling apart. But I've had this same Bible for 40 years. Yes, they've bought me other Bibles, but this is the Bible that God saved me through. This is the word that God used to save me. So I keep it here. I keep it in the drawer here, so I don't mess it up. I just use technology now and bring up the Bible verses. So this guy right here, please go subscribe to him. He made an amazing video. He literally only has 165 subscribers. And this is another one of those gems that we find as we search out there in the world. I think this actually might have came from Brett from God's Land Down Under for me to go subscribe to. I did. His video here is very good. And what I liked about it is he's like, I'm not looking for, of course, we're looking for the rapture date. He says, I'm looking for the beginning of the trib. I think I can determine when the tribulation begins. I'm going to know that we have to leave prior to that date. And he's right. And Adam sinned on October the 31st, and God judged it. All those judgments he passed down, where now thistles grow up and the land is so hard to work with in the millennium, it won't be like that. The curse is lifted. Women suffering and all that pain to have a baby, that won't happen during the millennium. That curse is lifted. Um, so that happened on October the 31st, just like every culture around the face of the earth recognizes that date. That's the date Adam sinned and judgment came down Adam. That's the date that the Nephilim tried to corrupt our DNA and God cleaned the planet off using water on October the 31st. And is that going to be the day where tribulation begins? Once again, there's nothing new under the sun. Why wouldn't he choose that same exact date, October the 31st, November the 1st, to bring judgment on the planet? So he makes a really good video, really good case for tribulation beginning on October the 31st. So he also makes a statement in there, and I say, well, let me go check to make sure what he said was correct before I make a video on it. Now, they are still using the moon. Will they use the moon through the 7 years? I do think that they will, but I think at the end of the 7 years, God's going to go back to the correct calendar. And so here we have October the 31st of 2024. Judgment begins. Tribulation begins. We have to be out of here before this begins on October the 31st. When you go forward 2,520 days, 1,260 doubled, you land on September the 25th, which he says is Atonement. We all know that they're looking for Atonement to be the last day of the last days. September the 26th at nightfall. So if the flood begins on November the 1st, 2,520 days would be September the 26th. I always say October the 31st just because it's at nightfall on October. When you go out trick-or-treating, you go out at nightfall. Same thing. It happened at nightfall on the 31st. Jesus was born at nightfall of the 29th, but he was born on the 30th. So Halloween begins at nightfall on the 31st, but it begins on the 1st. Same thing. So the 26th, Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement in the year 2031. This wraps it all up. This is the end of it right here. This is the end of tribulation right here. And it matches perfectly to beginning. And again, this is the Jewish date, right? This is the date the Jews believe that this is the Day of Atonement. This could not line up with the Enoch timeline. Oh, but it does. Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur. This is the day Jesus ends his fast. This is September the 25th, becoming September the 26th. The 1 day issue here, but it could be the 26th. So it's right around the same period of time. So is this where he starts saying, all right, this is Yom Kippur, Day of Atonement. We're going to begin our count here. And this day will be day 192. I don't know how that's going to work. I do believe I have the correct timeline. But when will God implement it? I am not sure. So I talked to Brett on Discord. And I said, I really like this guy's approach. Jesus was born 14 days after the new year in March. Jesus was crucified 14 days. Sorry, I said that wrong. Jesus was born 14 days after the old New Year in September. Exactly 182 days earlier, Jesus was crucified on a cross 14 days after the new Year in March. The new month or the new year ends on October the 16th or 15th, depending on that day out that we were talking about. The 15 days prior to October the 31st. Now, isn't that strange that that date lands exactly 15 days prior? And remember, these 14 days are actually at nightfall. Jesus went to the cross at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but they buried him right at nightfall. Jesus was born at nightfall on the 29th, 14 days, but he was actually born after nightfall on the 30th. So each one of these events are 15, 15, and 15. The same thing happens when you go from October the 16th to October the 31st, November the 1st, 15 days. Birth after nightfall and buried at nightfall, each equaling 15 days. Symmetry, of course, that's what I look for. That's how my brain functions. I look for symmetry. Said, I love it. It makes sense. It also must bring the Jews to jealousy. So it has to match what they think, which it does. It matches the 26th, the Day of Atonement. Or is that the day? That might be. Did I say that wrong? Is it Tabernacles? Let me go back and look. No, that's Atonement. Oh, this year it's right around Tabernacles. Yeah, on the 24th, I think, is when they're viewing Tabernacles to begin. The day that Noah got into the ark, 1 week prior to the flood beginning. They'll even they'll even say this is Tabernacles. They'll show the 7 days of Tabernacles, but then they'll say, well, yeah, October the 31st is the day of the flood. They will all forsake their calendars to state that October the 31st is when the flood began. If you just anchored everything just as in the days of Noah, when that flood began, and you count backwards and you count forwards 364 days, you'll have the timeline I have. It's identical. Do you think I wasn't surprised? I mean, absolutely floored when I started the year on March 17th and I began applying each day to a Hebrew date all the way down, and I landed on Halloween as the date of the flood. I was on Heshvan 17. I was absolutely floored. So it just lines up too perfectly. So God, but it says, so it has to also match what they think as a holiday is. But remember, God hates their feast days because they are on the wrong days. They will always celebrate on the wrong day. Yeah, there you go. 11/11, that happened. All right. Although the modern Jewish New Year falls on a different day in September every year, the ancient Hebrew calendar appears to place October 31st as the date of the Great Flood. How would that ever move? How would that ever change? If the flood was on this day, you could Heshvan 17, you could simply count back. Just count back. You would wind up knowing when the head of the year is, which would land on September the 15th. That's all you do. But because they're using that moon, they will always go wrong. And I'm talking about some of the biggest and I'm not talking bad about them. I'm just asking, why are we hung up on this moon so heavily when we know darn well the flood happened on October the 31st, and we can do solid math, symmetrical math from October the 31st and figure out when every day of the year actually landed. We should want to know that, but we also have to be aware that God says that Israel is our timepiece, that we don't need to worry about that kind of stuff, because in the end of the day, God is going to line things up just like he has this year. And if you'll go watch that video of that guy and subscribe to him, please, you'll hear him say that that it's amazing how it won't happen again. The 2,520 days from Halloween to Atonement, it won't happen again for quite some time. This period of time from 2024 to 2031, it only happens in this period of time. If you go from 2025 to 2032, it won't happen. It doesn't line up. So that's what struck me about his video is he's just symmetry, and he's found it. So as the great day of the flood. According to the Bible chronology, the great flood took place, and they're wrong. It's 2344 BC or 1656 from creation. But everyone, every culture, you go in and Google it right now. Finland, what day is the Day of the Dead in Finland? Go China, what day is the day of the Russia? What day is the day? Every single one of them, 90, when I looked, it was 90% of them went to this date. Some others went to like November the 4th or something. They were off by a few days, but most countries will look at this. America, of course, the 31st. So South America, Dia de los Muertos, that's November the 1st. All of them are the same. All right. Now I found something and I wanted to share it. What are we waiting for? We are in the Luke group. We are the bride here in Luke 21:25. This is speaking directly to us. Now, if you go to the return of the Son of Man here in Mark, you're going to see a few items added to it. And if you go to Matthew, you're going to see quite a few more items added to that. Things that they will need to look for. After we leave and the rapture occurs, there's a whole new group of people taking over, the tribulation saint, and they are going through it. Well, I'll tell you what, they're going through it. And you thought we have 2,000 years of nothing happening, no real huge things to prove all this stuff, but they're going to watch a rapture occur. They're going to see angels riding around, four horsemen coming down, 144,000 virgin Jewish males that are sealed, that can't die, two witnesses running around talking about all this stuff. They're going to have all this. They're going to become the world's greatest researchers. I think Brett just said that in his live that he had today. But it's true. They will become the world's greatest researchers. They will be doing more math than we ever thought of, and they will be coming from a perspective of understanding that we don't have. We're still trying to count back to 2,000 years. They've only got to count back to the rapture. They don't have to count back 2,000 years. Whatever day that rapture happens, 2,520 days later, it's over. And the Jews believe it's over on the Day of Atonement. And we see that it looks like it begins on October the 31st. We got to go before October the 31st. We've got to go. I don't know if we're going to be here till then. I really don't know how long prior to that, except for that passage I'm going to show you here in a moment. So what are we looking for in the Luke group, in the bride? We are not looking for an antichrist. We're not looking for the mark of the beast. We're not looking for four horsemen. We're not looking for anything. You know what we're looking for right now? Because we've seen all this other stuff. There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. We have a second moon. We have things that these things that we see could have happened every 1,000 years, but they didn't. They're all happening right now up there in the skies. We have this common atlas about ready to show its tail. Here they're talking about it's about ready to do it. So this is happening right now. Signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars. Remember, the moon here, when you read this, people are like, see right there, it's that tells you the date. It doesn't say dates, it doesn't say months. Read it closely. It says signs. Yes, the moon is there for signs. That's what it's there for. It's not there to tell time. It doesn't. It's there to tell time in the aspect of here's a blood moon. How many days after the blood moon or prior to the blood moon, or here's an eclipse. How many days after or prior? That's how you count. Not see a sliver. That's the beginning of the month. Sorry, the moon returns to its natural position 354 days later. It doesn't work. When God says that you will celebrate every seventh day and keep it holy, there's 28 days. And then on the 30th day, except for 4 days a year where the seasons change, the Kasei, there's 31. There never was 360 days. It was always 364. So on that day, on the 30th day, that's the new month, not the new moon, the new month. It doesn't happen 29 and a half days, happens every 30 days. So what are we waiting for, bride? The only thing we're waiting for is the sea and the waves roaring. Now, I surmise that like I said, when I started the program, there were 6 or 8 earthquakes in Costa Rica. It's making its way up to California. And that fault that's under the Pacific Ocean right there, Pacific? Yeah, Pacific Ocean, is under North America. It's pushed up under. And if you look over by Australia and all that, it's crushing that side because it's sliding out. It is inching out, and as it inches out, it's causing earthquakes back here, back on the side of Australia and Russia and all of that, of New Zealand. It's going crazy over there. Why is it going so crazy? And then we see these great chasms, these huge trenches opening up in North America all the way down through Mexico. Why are they opening up? Because that's the plate sliding, and I don't know how many feet it's up underneath that plate, the North American plate, but when it comes off, it is going to create a tsunami like no one has ever seen. The sea and the waves roaring is a good argument that right there is speaking to a tsunami. But then I find this. Oops, let me go back and see where that was. That's in Isaiah 17:12. Isaiah 17:12. Woe to the multitude of many people which make a noise like the noise of the seas and the rushing of nations that make the rushing like the rushing of mighty waters. We're seeing that already. When you see these things, hold on. And when you see these things begin to come to pass, then look up, lift up your heads, for your redemption draws nigh, near. We're seeing these things, men's hearts failing them for fear. We've seen a few people who've gone up against Israel just fall over dead at the podium. We've seen that, men's hearts failing. God just said, and you're not hurting Israel. So and God's in control of every single beat of our heart. And they're trying to go against Israel. What did they think was going to happen? But they don't. They don't think about it. So here we are. Is this talking about people? The nations shall rush like the rushing of many waters, but God shall rebuke them. They're all after Israel. They're all coming up against Israel. Don't even think that America is on their side, because America is not. America is playing a game. I believe America actually wants to go to war with Russia and is pushing all the buttons to make that happen. But a that is a setup thing, I would say, to keep our attention off of Israel, to keep our concern away from Israel. Israel is what we should be concerned about. And so found that very interesting, that the waves and the seas roaring might be talking about what's about to happen in Israel. That's like, what are you doing? I said, I fell asleep. He's like, will you please get on YouTube? There's stuff going on. I was like, okay, I'm sorry. All right. Now, let's go back to Amos 8:5, saying, when will the new month be gone? The month of Tishri is the new month. It's not moon, it's month. It encapsulates the entire month. It encases the entire month. And so saying, when will the new month be gone, that we may sell corn and the Sabbath? Remember, I showed you that the new month ends on the 14th or 15th, and the Sabbath doesn't change. The Sabbath never moves. That's the day God rested. That is on the, I'm going to forget. Is it, well, it was the first day of Heshvan. Tishri 30 is the last day of the month, which was a Friday on God's calendar. And on Heshvan 1 would be the Sabbath. Remember, I showed you it was 4 weeks after God rested, 28 days exactly on that day. So, in essence, what I see this saying is, when will the new month be gone, that we may sell corn, and that the Sabbath and the Sabbath. So they not only want the new month gone, which is Tishri 30, but they also want the Sabbath gone, which is Heshvan 1. And I showed you how that lines up perfectly with the day God rested 28 days later on Heshvan 1, which, again, because the Gregorian calendar is hard to match an exact day, but it looks like it's October the 16th. Could be the 15th, the 16th. So they're waiting for this to be gone so that they can, is that we may set forth wheat, making the ephah small and the shekel great. They're going to rob people and falsify the balances by deceit. They're going to deceive everybody. And what are they doing? They're going to bring in the Antichrist. And it's just a terrible time. There will be no fair. The only reason there's fair right now is because the restrainers here holding back all of this stuff. He's in control of all of this, but he's about to leave. He's about to stop restraining. Let's say that he's going to stop restraining. We're going to be out of here, and we're going to be hidden away in our mansions. He was having a rough time this morning down there in Australia. He did a really good video. We joined him. He's going to come on another live. I think he said the 14th, because he's like, "Is this happening to?" I said, "I really can't nail an exact day down. It's going to be the 14th, 15th. We can't really nail down an exact hour, because what we call sunset, it could be twilight. It could be when they spot the first two stars that appear in the sky. There's a bunch of variables involved with knowing the exact hour. And as you can see, because of the Gregorian calendar having that one extra day in it, is a bunch of variables involved in knowing the exact day as well. All right, I am out of pictures. I'm going to post this. Everything we've been telling you for the past, I don't remember. I've been at this 5 or 6 years trying to figure out this timeline. I just prayed about it. I just prayed about it. And, I mean, who would have ever picked March 16th? I didn't have a dog in the fight. I didn't care when the beginning of the year was. I really didn't care. But when I figured it out, and I was like, whoa, and I've made so many timelines prior to this. I couldn't make a YouTube video on those other timelines because something would come up that wouldn't work. Do you know what it feels like to get to Hesh 17 and it land on Halloween? It's very confirming. You know what it feels like when you get to Christmas Day and that lands. I don't remember exactly what date does that land on. They have to be 75 days off. So 15 days from the 10th. It would be the 10th day of, I don't remember what month. But anyway, you can get the timeline for free. It doesn't cost anything. Nothing with me has ever cost anybody one penny. The only thing it's cost you is the electricity to watch the video. I've never charged anybody a dime. It's been such a pleasure, and I mean that. It's been such a pleasure to bring what God has shown me. And I know with all the people that I watch and enjoy their videos, and it doesn't matter if I think they're right or wrong about this, the one common thread is that Jesus Christ came, died for our sins, rose on the third day, and personally paid for me, personally paid for you. And at some point, you did go to a quiet place by yourself. Nobody needed to know. You didn't need to tell anybody. And you accepted the Lord. And then after that, the evidence of such things are that you share what you experienced with others that they might, you know, who knows? I mean, somebody quietly somewhere in a foreign country somewhere accepted the Lord and is now running around telling others, and they're accepting the Lord. Who knows how many people could be saved by you telling? You could have been the one to tell Robert Breaker, 30, 40 years ago when he started out. Who told him? That one person. Maybe they didn't bring, like Robert Breaker has, an incredible, viewpoint to the Gospels like he has. Maybe they didn't, but under their belt, they have Robert Breaker because they told him, and he has saved countless. He's saved more people than I could ever dream of. You know what I'm saying? So you don't know who God is using you to save when you're saving somebody. It could be a Chuck Missler. It could be, you don't know. It could be one person you save, and you could have just saved millions by telling that one person. So that's why it's so important, and it's such a blessing for God to use us to do this. And that's how I view this. It is a blessing. So, David, from what I hear, weathered the hurricane okay. You ever seen a hurricane fall apart like that? You ever seen the power of prayer? I've been living in Florida for I was 18, so over 40 years been living here. And I've never seen a hurricane fall apart that they were just a few hours earlier saying, we're going to have to create a new category. This thing's so big, we don't even know our atmosphere can't qualify or make a Cat 6, but this one sure is developing, and it fizzled. I mean, it tore up some stuff, but the things it could have torn up with winds that were over 180 miles an hour fizzled down to, I don't even remember what it was when it crossed. People are texting me, how are you doing? Is everything okay? And I'm like, I'm in Jacksonville. You need to text David. He was down there in the middle of it, you know? So anyway, keep watching. I'm telling you what, it's like, it's like when you're walking along and a tree branch falls and you're like, wow, I just walked past that spot. If I would have stopped for 1 second, that tree branch would have hit me. That's how it happens. It happens that quick. You're just there 1 second, and then the next second, the rapture occurs. And this silly idea of don't look back. You can't lose your salvation. You can't lose anything. You can't look back. You think you have time to look back in an instant, in the twinkling of an eye, you're going to be standing in glory that quick. There's don't even concern yourself with those kinds of thought processes. It doesn't match up with what we read in the Bible. So stay strong, keep watching, and like I said, you know the dates that we're looking at. 14, 15, 16. Brett's going to hold it live, which is going to be awesome. I'll be there. And then October the 30th, 31st, and November the 1st, right around in those areas. So we will see. Keep your eyes peeled for Israel and what Israel's doing. They are our timepiece. They are the ones that will dictate. God will use them, but it will dictate what happens. Russia, not so much, but Israel, yes. And pray for them. Pray for them because they're about to go through it for quite some time, and they have to go all the way through the 7 years. So please pray for Israel while you're here and you have a chance. All right, YouTube, Repo Man 64. Chat with you again if I find anything.